A middle school boy celebrating a scholarship for high school seems like the perfect beginning to a new chapter in his life, right? But, like in most stories, there's more than meets the eye. My scholarship was stolen by the principal and given to his son. And this was after I had done a major computer project for the school. I meticulously planned my revenge in 3 phases, and there ended up being an unplanned phase 4. Justice was served.
Hey guys, welcome to our channel.
I attended a high school that was a complete disaster. They cut costs on everything except teacher salaries, which was the only way to keep them there. My dad, an IT specialist, was always immersed in technology, so I was drawn to the world of computers from an early age. Soon, it became known that I was the guy who fixed the school's computers, not out of obligation, but for access to the hidden Super Nintendo emulators buried deep in the system. Most didn't care, except for the lovely Mrs. Bell, our computer lab teacher, who loved my willingness to help her. Our school had about 200 computers, all old and outdated, except for one, which I decided to upgrade on my own to play some of my favorite games that I donated to Mrs. Bell, and only we enjoyed the fun. Only she and I could use it. But then, enter the main villains of this story. The principal and his arrogant son. The principal, a petty and exploitative man, had me fix his electronics without a penny of compensation or recognition. He didn't pay me or even give me extra credit. And his son, convinced he was a computer prodigy because he knew how to format, saw formatting as the solution to all the school's computer problems. Then, by sheer luck, our school took a state test and, well, didn't do very well. But we got a big grant to upgrade our computers. The principal, being cheap as ever, used a low-quality computer store to buy the new equipment. I offered to help, but he preferred to do it all on his own. I had barely started my workday when the evil son, the principal's kid, was already at full speed. He ordered 250 new computers. The rest of the school's funds? It seemed to evaporate mysteriously, something we would discover later. The evil principal, his wicked son, and their family went on vacation, abandoning our school to its fate. So, 250 computers were delivered to Mrs. Bell, and I started working with her to begin the installations. After setting up 50 of the 250 computers, I decided to take a break in the reception area. That's when I realized that none of the operating systems had been installed. Nothing. Zero. The principal had opted to save money by not buying the operating system keys, saving a few bucks per machine. I was furious. I ran to Mrs. Bell, whose worried expression said it all before I even opened my mouth. The evil principal didn't buy the operating system keys. I blurted out. She was shocked, got up, and went to contact the principal about our disastrous situation. She called the principal, who was leisurely enjoying his vacation with his family, and demanded an immediate solution. The conversation was tense, filled with muffled arguments. "I don't see this as an emergency," he said indifferently. "We need the keys," said Mrs. Bell. "We don't have the money for that," claimed the principal. "Without the operating systems, these computers are dead weight," Mrs. Bell argued, with growing frustration. Then the principal dropped a bombshell. "Sounds like your problem. Buy the keys yourself. I can't afford it. And be aware, I want these new computers running or a new computer teacher will be needed." And then he hung up. I called my dad, an IT specialist who was thankfully available and ready to step in. He rallied his team, and with a mix of indignation and determination, they arrived at the school to solve the problem. It wasn't entirely legal, but we decided to make the best of the situation. After all, they were on vacation and ended up enjoying the time together, working tirelessly to get everything set up properly. With my dad's corporate key in hand, we managed to install the necessary operating systems on all 250 computers. We set up the network, updated the school's software, and between hard work and a few beers, even managed to enjoy some fun, watching movies projected on the school walls. The following Monday, when everyone returned from vacation, they were greeted by a new technological era at the school. Shiny computers, fast network, everything working perfectly. It was an epic journey of challenges overcome and strengthened friendships, where we learned that sometimes the true value lies in the community and the determination to do what's right, even when the obstacles seem insurmountable. I spent the next 2 days assigning logins to staff and students, teaching them to navigate the new systems. Mrs. Bell was hailed as a hero by the staff and everyone who knew I had helped her. You see, Mrs. Bell's actions didn't go unnoticed. She received a generous job offer, which she immediately accepted. 2 weeks before leaving, she wrote a letter for a scholarship program offered by the district's technology school. She handed me one copy of the scholarship and another to the evil principal and left. But in her absence, things started to go wrong. Computers breaking down, items disappearing from lockers, and serious thefts. The cameras installed in the locker rooms only increased parents' concerns. It was decided we needed an assembly to calm things down and honor the good students. And that's where the weirdest part of the story comes in. The evil principal, the mischievous son, and his mother, all were there. My parents couldn't attend, but I didn't mind. They started listing how a student saved the school from an imminent disaster. I laughed out loud because they were about to honor Mrs. Bell, but instead, they decided to honor me. I smiled, feeling a mix of pride and despair. I was being praised by the man I hated most, and I had to hide my frustration. Please, a round of applause for my son, for saving the school's computers. His actions didn't go unnoticed. You've earned a full scholarship to the technology school. I couldn't hear the rest. My world went red. My friends held me back as I tried to storm the stage. I wanted to expose and embarrass everyone there. I remembered the boos I shouted that day. They were taking credit for my work, disrespected my dad and his friends' volunteer efforts, stole my scholarship, and mistreated Mrs. Bell. I was furious and decided that revenge wouldn't be an impulsive act. It would be meticulously planned. Weeks passed since I was betrayed, and I had a full month to execute my plan. I gathered a secret council of the 8 brightest students in the school, all aware of the story and willing to help. Our council was underground, never meeting in the same place twice. We followed strict rules and developed a meticulous plan. I coordinated the hard work while one of us focused on neutralizing the evil kid, my first target. I talked to the janitor, telling him my story of theft and convincing him to cooperate. He agreed to help. With no direct access to the school systems, I turned to Mrs. Bell, explaining the situation. She was shocked and promised to intervene, but I insisted she ensure the problem never happened again. Her sweet laugh echoed in the room as she agreed. It was a relief knowing she was on my side. The council had a key sympathetic member who we convinced to give us their login. Now, the cameras were under our control. While monitoring the lockers, we confirmed what everyone suspected. The evil kid was the thief. Using the principal's login, he accessed the lockers, covering his tracks by deleting the footage. But this time, he wouldn't escape. My dad had gifted me his old laptop, a powerful $2,500 model that became my main tool. One day, I took it to school, playing heavy graphic games to attract the evil kid's attention. He approached, eyes gleaming with interest. The bait was set. He followed me, talking about video games and inviting me to his house. Following the school's rules, I concealed my combo and prepared the trap. He asked if I wasn't afraid of being robbed, and I reassured him, mentioning the cameras. They capture everything, I said, planting the seed of doubt. Come with me after school, he suggested confidently. We can play at my place. Taking a break during class, I went to the math room, claiming I was updating computers. The teacher allowed it, starting his lesson while I monitored the cameras. 20 minutes later, the evil kid appeared with a trash bag, opening my locker and taking out my laptop. The trap was working perfectly. With gloves on, he thought he was safe, but not this time. I saved the file, but waited another 20 minutes before solving a math problem for the class. When I finally checked the file again, I realized a crucial part of the footage had been deleted. Quickly, I restored the missing part. The backup was just a precaution, but I still wanted a safe copy for myself. At noon, I went to my locker and saw my bag was empty. Immediately, I reached out to a council member, who rushed to call the school police officer. Within minutes, 5 police cars surrounded the school and locked it down for investigation. The officer requested the camera footage to be reviewed in the office of the malicious principal, where the evil son was playing around. The principal walked in and gave the son access to the cameras, claiming the files had recently been corrupted. The evil son smiled confidently, asking for guidance on the cameras from that day and pointing out a specific area. It was then that he saw the images that incriminated him. He was confident because he had deleted that part of the recordings, but I had restored it with the backup I made in the math room. I wasn't there to see his expression, but I was called back when they caught him. I watched the footage shown by the 3rd police officer. I was shocked, and I'm also good at acting, haha. I sobbed lightly. He was my friend. How could he have betrayed my trust so gravely, etc., etc., etc. 15 minutes later, he was brought back. He apologized, claiming he just wanted to return what he took. But it wasn't in his hands anymore. The value of the stolen items exceeded $1,000, making him liable for a serious criminal charge. The evil principal watched his son sinking. He had used his father's login to steal locker combos and manipulate the cameras. The police found over $5,000 worth of stolen goods in his room. He was ruined, but I wasn't done yet. As he was being taken away by the police, I saw the evil principal cover him with a coat. He was trying to shield his son from public shame. But for me, justice had been served. The first phase of my revenge was complete. Now on to phase 2. I filed a complaint with the superintendent about the tech school scholarship, presenting a copy of the letter Mrs. Bell had written for me. He read it, visibly shocked, and made a quick phone call. Soon, a meeting was arranged with the evil principal, the superintendent, Mrs. Bell, myself, and my dad. We explained in detail how I sacrificed an entire week to save the school's computers while my dad provided free labor. My dad then loudly and clearly explained how he donated his personal corporate key to me, allowing us to install the operating systems without needing to buy 250 keys. The superintendent was shocked to see proof that the key did indeed belong to my dad, verified by a computer. It was my turn to speak. I turned to the evil principal and shouted loud enough for every class on that floor to hear. You had 2 weeks to redeem yourself. Instead, you tried to steal my scholarship for your thief of a son. If my son doesn't receive the scholarship by tomorrow, my dad declared firmly, I'll revoke my keys from every computer in the school. We argued that all of this could have been avoided if the evil principal hadn't been so cheap with the school's budget. Faced with the budget issue, raised by us, the superintendent asked the principal for the full report on how the state grant funds were spent. He scheduled an audit of the spending and planned a follow-up meeting after the audit results. It turned out that the evil principal had been embezzling money. He manipulated many budgets, thinking he'd hidden his tracks well. The evil principal had nowhere to run. The school wouldn't accept any excuses. Now, he no longer worked there. Needless to say, Phases 2, recovery of the scholarship, and 3, management of the donation to upgrade our computers, made by the evil principal, were complete. I spent 2 intense weeks at the tech school, finally securing my scholarship. It was a tumultuous journey, to say the least. The truth came to light when we found out the evil principal had been siphoning off the donation money. After his dismissal, there was no sign of his whereabouts. Honestly, I don't care either. On the second to last day of school, the evil son was released on bail or something like that. When he was leaving, I saw him waiting in the parking lot. It seemed like he wanted to apologize, but that wasn't it. He stared at me and walked away. I shrugged and started walking, unaware I was being followed.
There are invisible scars that shape lives. Abuse steals your peace, but not your strength. Breaking the Cycle of Abuse is an interactive guide where you'll find powerful tools to identify the signs of abuse, understand the dynamics of violence, find shelter and legal and psychological support, plan a safe exit from a harmful environment, overcome trauma and rebuild your self-esteem. Start your journey of healing and transformation now for just $9.60.
The blow to the back of my head was brutal. I fell to the ground, stunned. Before I could react, he was on top of me, punching my face relentlessly. That's when I decided I wouldn't fight fair. Planting a firm knee in his sensitive parts, I saw his face contort in pain. I was furious, but I was pulled away by 2 athletes from across the street. They saved me from the worst, but one of them decided to take justice into his own hands, landing a powerful punch on the evil son. He passed out on the ground. The police arrived shortly after, and now things had changed. The evil son was charged with assault and possession of a deadly weapon, as they found a knife on him. He was taken to the hospital, then to jail. The fall cost me more than just physical pain. I sprained an ankle and limped for weeks. But as the months passed and the dust settled, I found out he got a few years in a juvenile detention center. Haha, justice was served, and I even got an unplanned Phase 4 of revenge.
Want more mysteries, twists, and exciting moments? So you can't miss this video. Click now and continue this journey of fascinating stories. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any news. Leave your comments and see you next time.